in that manner. We are also going to be centralizing the purchase management of all technology, hardware, software, and subscriptions. Anything that touches the electrons of the school is a cyber risk, and we want to make sure that the technology director absolutely knows what is happening in that space. We're also finding that there are extra keyboards, extra mice, et cetera, that are available in the school inventory, and yet we're still buying them. So we want to make sure we're kind of recycling some of the things that we have. And then all tech subscriptions. This budget also includes funding to begin a technology refresh. When we talked with Mr. Basie, it was clear that we needed to start looking at tech refreshes on a more regular basis. Right now, things are being kind of bought ad hoc or sometimes on onesie-twosies, and we really need to get in a routine. So he made some suggestions on how we can better manage the technology hardware, and we've added that into the budget. The proposal that we've developed is in accordance with the county guidance. You'll see two proposals. There are two proposals posted. One is the proposal in accordance with the county guidance. There were several options that the county directed us to look at. And then in consultation with the superintendent, under her responsibilities under the Code of Virginia, she has a legal responsibility to make advice and recommendations on a school budget. And so we also developed a proposal that aligns with that responsibility. So depending on which one the school board votes for, one or both may be moving forward to the county. We are almost done with our analysis of the Virginia Department of Education revenue projections. The county local composite index went down slightly, which means we will get a little bit more revenue from the state sources. So right now it looks like we're about $8,000 over where we were last year. The reason that that number is not bigger is there are some sources of revenue that have been included in past budgets for years. I'm going to be meeting with some folks to try to understand where I can find the evidence for those dollars, because I can't find the evidence that those dollars were coming in as revenue, and I want to make sure that we have that documentation before we add that into the budget. Let's see. And the budget estimates that we have prepared include capital planning estimates for phased projects for the elementary school playground, buses, as well as the well. It's possible that we may not need those expense projections depending on the decisions that are made by the Board of Supervisors and the school board with respect to revenue. At last week's joint meeting, we had a very dynamic conversation with respect to what should we be doing with revenues that are due back to the county. And a couple of suggestions were proposed with respect to setting up some capital planning reserves that you can do in accordance with the Code of Virginia, provided that they have a dedicated use. They cannot be what I call slush funds. So we're looking into that to see what we can do there. So it's possible that the budget expenses might go down just a smidge. Okay. So the next slide. There's the numbers. So what this gives you is, this excludes nutrition. So Ms. Hamlet is an expert in her area, and because that is essentially a pass-through, there are no county funds that are associated with that account. We're following Ms. Hamlet's guidance on what we should be doing in that area. So these expense projections do not include anything in that space. So this slide is basically for all the different options. The Board of Supervisors wanted different options for compensation increases. One increase would be to cover insurance, estimated at 10%. Another increase would be 0.5% compensation. Another increase would be a 0.75, and another would be a 1%. And the next slide actually shows what the totals are for each of those, what the difference is from last year, and what the distribution is among instruction versus administration costs. The primary reason that those percentages have gone down is because we've centralized all the instructional software under technology. I haven't yet figured out how to account for that. So other than a footnote, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. The next slide then is, at the last meeting on Thursday, the Board of Supervisors asked us to do essentially three more options, which was a compensation increase that includes the 10% insurance adjustment plus each of the others. That's what this slide represents. The next slide after that is what the totals would be for each of those, and then the difference from last year. So you'll see the savings essentially disappear. And then the next slide is the slide that we worked on with in consultation with the superintendent, which is for a 1.25% step increase. And those are the projections there. And the slide after that is what it would be in terms of a difference from last year. So on that note, that's pretty much the presentation.
And we want to open the floor up for questions.
Thank you, Shannon. Questions, comments from anyone in the audience or online? And if you do have a question or comment, if you can either come grab the mic that's up here or stand in front of it just so people online can hear you.
Anyone at home who would like to speak, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 once you are called upon.
Ms. Lee.
It's not on. That's weird. We can't even hear right here. Here.
You have to sing first, though.
You got it? Okay, I'll go ahead. I'm Stacy Lee, 29 years here in Northumberland County Public Schools. Very proud to be a part of the staff. One question I would like to ask as far as the budget is concerned, those are a lot of numbers for me, and I know for the other teachers. When you're creating the budget, are we considering putting a step in for the teachers or putting the teachers on their correct steps? Or is it an and or? Because
So the county guidance doesn't address steps at all.
okay.
The county budget guidance includes 4 options for compensation increases. So the one option is to cover the 10%, estimated 10% insurance. Another option is a 0.5% raise. Another option is a 0.75% raise. Another option is a 1%. And 3 more options are both. A separate budget proposal, which is the one that the superintendent recommended, is a 1.25% step increase only. Does that answer the question?
It does. Just speaking on behalf of the staff, I know if we had any input in what we're looking forward to, I know some of the staff said if we had to put emphasis somewhere, we have a lot of teachers on the ladder nearing retirement, and they're not on the hybrid steps. That affects retirement and what goes into the VRS. So we would very much like to ask that you not only look at the 1.25 or 1.5, whatever the number was, but look at putting together some numbers where teachers can actually be put back on their correct steps. If they, in fact, completed 30 years, whatever that percentage is, to put them on that step, we'd like to see that happen.
So that would be individual raises, individual analysis.
I'm not sure how that is.
It would be a 2.5%, but I believe what Ms. Lee is indicating is saying they did not receive a 1.25 step last year.
Okay, so what Dr. Leslie's saying is that what Ms. Lee's getting at is that the teachers didn't get a 1.25% last year, so it's the request for this year is to true up and give a 2.5%. Which would mean the county would have to, right, which means the county would provide a 2.5% raise to all employees in the county. Got it. Got it. That's your comment. Got it.
Yes. All right.
We'll definitely bring that up. But can we run the numbers on that?
Sure.
Thank you all for hearing.
I know Ms. Hamlet would love to have questions. If you have any questions about the cafeteria, please feel free to ask.
All right, we're going to check to see if anyone online has thoughts.
Again, if there's anyone online who would like to speak, please press star 9 to raise your hand and star 6 once you are called upon. So far, no one online has raised their hands.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Dr. Kern.
Hi, sorry about that. The star thing didn't work for me. I just have a question. Or maybe a comment.
Well, if that was his question, can we hear him? The answer is yes. That's an easy one.
Any
Why
other,
do you do this, Miss Lees?
I was wondering if we're looking at additional revenue sources for technology in terms of like security grants. Are we going down and looking to see what's available in terms of that? Because that would help alleviate the budget. I did hear what Ms. Lee, I believe, said, and I will convey that. I will make sure that message gets conveyed to the Board of Supervisors, as well as any other concerns that anybody might have in terms of the budget process. If I heard it right, and I just want to make sure I just reiterate it so I get it right. She's requesting that that the step that the teachers wanted to have last year that they didn't get be instituted so that the teachers that are on the, I'm going to say the old retirement system, can maximize their retirement funding source in PRS. And I wasn't clear about the 2.5%. If you could just reiterate that for me, I'd appreciate it.
Because last year, the county opted for no raises for anyone. So that would mean that you'd have to give a 1.25% raise for last year, plus a 1.25% raise for this year, which means this year's rate would have to be 2.5% to true up the gap. That's the request.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
thank you.
And in terms of your answer about, are we looking for other sources of revenue? I believe that the school is always looking for other sources of revenue. I am not aware of any particular grants that we're chasing, but I know that there is a team dedicated to that. So if they come in, then great. But one thing I will also iterate is we are not going to, I'm not comfortable in this budget relying on grants. Because if they don't come in or they're not what we think they are, you still need to cover the expenses. And we have to make sure that the budget we have covers expenses independent of any grants. If grants come in, then we can either do reimbursements or not take as much money from the county. But it is not prudent budgeting to always estimate that grants are 100% reliable when sometimes they're not.
I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, but I also believe that as we chase these grants and we actually get them, then we reallocate those funds to what the Board of Supervisors and the school board deem is appropriate for spending for that money.
Concur. Other thoughts, comments on the process, the numbers? You guys came for a reason. What was it? Good. Well, thank you.
That is
Thank you.
awesome.
I like that. I just want to make sure that whatever questions you had, we answered.
Dr. Leslie, do you have a question?
Hi, I'm Dr. Leslie. Can you move to the slide where we had requested the 1.25 step for superintendent consultation? So there is something that I would request that we add here, whether or not it would be approved, I don't know. But when I was reviewing the numbers, the 1.25 step increase here does not include the offset for the 10% increase for health insurance, does it?
No.
And that is something that we would want to request. Now, I understand that steps are an issue and perhaps that may change the conversation for discussion. If instructional staff would be more interested in a 2.5 for step versus what the offset might be for the 10% change in healthcare. So I just wanted to bring that up.
So what I'll do is run 3 options.
right?
No,
Yeah, a 1.25, a
One will be
1.5 with
for-
healthcare. a
yeah, so
2.5
10% plus 1.25,
Right,
right? That's one option. 10% plus 2.5 is another option. and
Right.
Straight 2.5.
right, right. So just to clarify, because the 10% is what we're anticipating for a healthcare increase. It's not a 10% salary increase.
Right.
Thank you. I was going to yell, but I decided to use the mic.
Thank you, Dr. Leslie.
I think it's important to delineate that out, what Dr. Leslie said about the 10% is not a salary increase, so I don't want anybody to think that the schools are asking for a salary increase of 10%. That's an offset for the rising cost of health insurance.
Compensation increase.
Yes.
It is still a cost that does not need to be absorbed by the teachers if it's funded.
Correct.
That's it.
That's it.
Nothing else online? Okay. I guess that's it. Well,
If there aren't any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and close this session down. We still are at the school board office if you need us, and feel free to email or call, and we will answer any questions that you come up with as best we can. Thank you and have a good evening.
thank you. Okay, 10, 2.5, 10 plus 2. Okay.